Like, before I get into the story, because the story's going to be sick, I can't wait to tell you the story. But before I get into the story, I've got to share my own opinions. And honestly, I get that neither of these guys are saints, but between Khamenei and Bibi, I would take Bibi all day long. As bad as that is, as bad as Bibi's been, he's still the democratically elected leader of Israel. And even that, I know there's some corruption allegations and stuff, but he's still a democratic leader. Khamenei's awful. Like, he's really bad. Like, Iran is a police state. I find it just so surprising that not enough people in the West are commenting on just how bad a regime Iran is. And I'm usually quite realistic, so, you know, I was against US intervention in Iraq. I'm still against US intervention against Russia or China or anything like that. I'm very anti-war. I think war's atrocious. But there is also a liberal in me. And this week, I've gotten back in touch with my liberal roots, so much so that I'm quite grounded in my liberalism right now. You know, Iran is a you know, it reminds me of that quote from Star Wars, you know, when, you know, Obi-Wan says, "But Anakin, Palpatine is evil." and that's the same way I feel about Khamenei. This is the leader of a totalitarian state. Totalitarian states just abduct random people. They take people off the street and just lock them up. And that's not even the beginning of it. The Basij, the IRGC, these people, you know, they kill people. They kill people for protesting. It happened in 2019, 2022, 2009. The amount of times they've done this to innocent people is really quite troubling. And, you know, a lot of people think, are you going down that neocon path where you're saying, oh, you know, if it's a dodgy regime, we should go in and get involved? No, I'm not saying that. I don't want US intervention in Iran. I don't want Israeli intervention in Iran. But if Bibi's air raids and if Bibi's bombing, as tragic as they've been, by the way, because people have died, but if they can help the Iranian people rise up, I know this is very far-fetched now, very far-fetched, but if they help the Iranian people rise up and overthrow this totalitarian theocracy, well, then I would actually put my weight behind Bibi. As crazy as that sounds. Growing up, my parents always told me about how bad this Iranian, because my parents ran away from the Iranian regime. They ran away from the country after 1979, after the revolution. And growing up, I always heard stories about how bad this regime was. I went to Iran, luckily, when I was younger. I wanted to give Khamenei a chance. Honestly, like, if this was like a few years ago, I wanted to go check this guy out, because he had a Twitter page at one point. And I went on his page, right? And, my God, like, so the first tweet, at the time it was Twitter, the first tweet was, "Just raid Jane." You can go up and look this. It'll take you a while because it's so old now. But honestly, I'm telling you, it might still be up there. The first tweet was, "Just read Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Good read," or something like that. It was along those lines. He was talking about how much he rated a Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And I saw that, I was like, oh, this guy actually sounds quite cultured. Like, might give this guy... And then I scrolled down, and it's just death to Israel, death to America. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, come on, man. You can't be the leader of a country and constantly shout death to America and death to Israel all the time. You just can't do that. And I get why Iran is angry. Because, you know, the US has a history of getting involved in replacing their governments and stuff, as the US does with every other country. So I totally understand the Iranian frustration with the West, totally. But it doesn't excuse this horrible totalitarian regime, which kills its own people. It really doesn't. And, you know, I'm saying all this because I want the best for the Iranian people. And I think the best thing for the Iranian people would be, like, I feel like I'm getting into quite dangerous territory here, because my mission isn't really to prompt revolution. My mission is really to educate more so than to prompt revolution. Oh my God, I'm becoming Lenin. But honestly, I'm just putting my professional, and this is the thing, I live in a Western country, and this is the thing, like, so many people, there are so many, I'm not going to name any names, but there are so many channels being like, oh, how the evil West is now attacking Iran again. Dude, honestly, regime-wise, the people are lovely, but the Iranian regime is the evil one here, not relatively speaking, they are the evil ones here. Okay, next to Khamenei, Netanyahu and Trump are saints. I'm honestly, I'm telling you, they're saints next to him. I'm gonna get into the story because the story is sick. This week's got a great story, right? So, right, this story could be dated back to 79 if we really wanted to. To be honest, it could be a tale as old as time. We could do Beauty and the Beast settings right now if we really wanted to. But we're going to start in 2015 with the P5+1 signing the JCPOA. This was the Obama era. This was good times, relatively speaking. The zeitgeist was so much more positive this era. Obama had made it his mission to bring Iran into the community of nations. Okay, he was a dodgy regime, but Obama genuinely believed in giving people a chance, right? And so the P5+1, which was America, Britain, China, France, Germany, and Russia, got together and they struck a nuclear deal with Iran, which basically said, right, you guys, because this is all about nuclear, right? This entire thing is about the nuclear thing, and should Iran have a nuclear weapon? The deal allowed the Iranians to enrich their uranium up to 3.67%, okay? So that could have helped them with some energy, but it wasn't enough. It didn't hit 90%, which was the threshold you need if you want to start turning your uranium into a nuclear weapon. And the Iranians accepted this, and there was a big show and a big applause, and Obama called it historic, Biden said it was good, Europeans were thrilled. This was back when Europe was relevant still. Even Russia gave America credit. It applauded America for restraining itself militarily. So even the Russians were on board with this deal. This was generally a good time. We got some achievements, business started opening up. My dad's business, because my dad lives in the UK, but he also had a business in Iran, and that started doing better because the sanctions were lifted. Businesses felt comfortable doing business in Iran again. And this was actually, there was a little bit of optimism for a while, okay? And yet, the deal saw some backlash. There were some Republicans, most notably people like Mitch McConel, Marco Rubio, and also Tom Cotton, who came out and blasted the deal. Mitch McConnell had to go at it for not reducing Iran's nuclear infrastructure entirely. Marco Rubio was very concerned about the fact that Iran was still supporting proxies. He thought Iran was still a dangerous state. And Tom Cotton goes all the way and just says, why are we doing a deal with Khamenei, who has the blood of American veterans on his hands? And whilst these guys had problems, no one had as big a problem with this deal as Donald Trump, who in 2017 becomes president of the United States. And Trump comes out and he basically says that this nuclear deal was the worst deal ever negotiated. Okay, that is the exact quote. And, Trump comes into a very kind of establishment Washington, a very cliquey Washington, okay? A Washington that doesn't really want to let him do whatever he wants to do. So, Trump is surrounded by people like Rex Tillerson and H.R. McMaster and Jim, what's the guy called? James Mattis. There you go, James Mattis. He's surrounded by these people who just don't want him to withdraw from the JCPOA because it tied Iran down to this agreement for 15 years. You've got to understand that there are people from the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, who were allowed to go and inspect Iran's facilities and see whether they were making nukes or not. And between 2015 and 2018, when Trump would finally withdraw from the agreement, there was not a single issue, by the way. The IAEA never found a single issue, right? And also the Europeans loved the JCPOA. Again, this is still when Europe was kind of relevant. And the Europeans really didn't want Trump to leave, okay? May, Merkel, Macron were all telling Trump to just, ease off and just not do it. And for a while, people were actually questioning whether Trump would actually go through with it because of all the backlash he was getting from the globalists and the liberals. My people, this episode, my people. But then enters everyone's favorite person, Bibi Netanyahu, right? So on the 30th of April 2018, just over 1 year into Trump's first term, Bibi Netanyahu comes and makes a big show and dance and basically goes, yeah, well, you know what, in fairness, the Mossad agents mission into Iran, there was this, go look it up when you get some time, there's this sick mission where they get into Iran undercover, break into a warehouse, steal Iran's atomic secrets and bring it back into Israel. And it's a sick mission. There's a book on it, which I can put up on the screen right now. I'd highly recommend it. Anyway, they bring this back to Bibi, and Bibi's like, oh, I found it. And basically, the reports didn't actually show Iran working on a nuclear weapon, but it shows that Iran was, at some point before 2015, planning on building a nuclear weapon, right? And Bibi gets this and gives it to Trump, goes, aha! Look, I was telling you all along, they were working on a nuclear weapon. Because Bibi just loves these diagrams. The amount of times Bibi's just got up on like the UN and Washington and whatever and just shown pictures of bombs is insane. And Trump loves this, okay? And he just uses it. He goes, yeah, I told you guys, I told you this was a regime we couldn't work with. And basically Trump uses this to withdraw from the deal, and he withdraws from the Iranian nuclear deal in May 2018, okay? And this sets the stage up for what happens later, right? Iran sees this and starts freaking out, right? So freaking, what was it, President Rouhani calls the White House mentally retarded, and then Khamenei comes out with all these words I'm putting up on the screen now, and they get really annoyed because they thought they had a deal, and Trump's like, nah, man, you guys are a bunch of, it's like radical Islamists, man. Why the hell am I going to make a deal with you, man? And Khamenei's like, oh, well, in that case, this is sick, by the way, because Khamenei then turns to his leading guy. This guy is actually quite cool. Again, I've been very vocal about being anti-Iranian regime. But this next character is actually quite cool. In quite a dark way, because look, let me get into it. This guy's called Qassem Soleimani, and he's the leader of the IRGC, and this guy was, called, even the Americans and Israelis acknowledged the genius of this guy. He was a genius of asymmetric warfare, which I'm quite new to. I need to look into what that exactly is, but that's what I heard. He was a genius of asymmetric warfare, and this is the guy who, helped, along with Putin, helped Assad stay in power back when America and their allies were trying to overthrow him. This is the guy who Khamenei turns to and goes, right, you're going to go start taking care of the US, and what Soleimani does, he starts covertly attacking US bases in the Middle East, right? He starts building up Hamas, he starts building up Hezbollah. These guys existed before, but under Soleimani, they really become very powerful. And he starts building up the Houthis as well. And suddenly you got, like, all these attacks going off everywhere. And, he gives, like, Hezbollah and Hamas hundreds of millions of dollars. And Iran starts getting quite powerful during the late 2010s, right? And, and it becomes a problem because he starts hitting American soldiers. At one point, Trump hears about another attack coming up, and Trump goes, nah, you fricking don't. And basically, Trump takes him out. Okay, so Trump, just to clarify, with an airstrike in January 2020, Trump takes out Soleimani and another guy, the head of Iran's head of their Iraqi militia movement, okay, Iraqi proxies. And this infuriates Khamenei, basically, right? So Khamenei starts losing it, and he starts basically ramps up, it starts enriching uranium up a bit more, goes up to 20%, and then he launches cyber attacks on the Americans. And in 2020, things start to really heat up, and basically Trump, towards the end of 2020, is now thinking, right, well, I need to hit Iran's nuclear facilities because they're getting carried away, right? And Trump's about to do it, but then before you know it, Trump gets removed from office. Gets removed, loses re-election basically, and in comes Biden, okay? And now this is a bit of a problem because Biden was arguably much easier on the Iranians than Trump was. So Biden was entertaining notions of relaunching the JCPOA, and he was much easier on Iran's oil exports as well. Certain sanctions are removed, and as a result, Iran's able to start selling oil to China again and start reaping in profits from that as well. And before you know it, as a result of Biden's policies, Iran starts taking this money and starts channeling it into its proxies again. And, a lot of this goes to Hamas, who start digging tunnels. And before you know it, it's 2023 and Hamas have launched an attack on Israel again. And so you can understand why Bibi becomes so frustrated, because he's in a region surrounded by people like Hamas and Iran. Bibi's not innocent here. He's allowed Hamas to get strong. He's using it to basically take over Gaza. But Bibi has very genuine concerns about Khamenei, who just wants to, this happened time and time again, the Iranians just saying that they want to destroy his nation. I want to be very clear as well, Biden gave Bibi a lot of, it's almost as if he was trying to make up for his poor policies on Iran. Biden gave Bibi a lot of weapons and money for his campaign against Hamas and his strikes on Gaza. But either way, look, Biden's policies resulted in Iran getting stronger, okay? And Biden's policies backfired because, the Houthis as well start attacking US and British ships going through the Red Sea in 2023, I think, 2024. So look, Iran gets stronger again, and come 2024, Biden is losing it. Literally, mentally, the guy was losing it. My heart goes out to him, by the way. I've heard he's got cancer, so I don't want to rip on him or anything. But Biden loses it, and Trump comes back, and Bibi must be loving this because look, there was so, Trump comes back, and first thing he deals with Hamas first for their attack, and goes, if you don't return those hostages, there's going to be hell to pay, right? But a lot of people were questioning what he was going to do with Iran, right? And for a while, it looked like Trump was actually going to get along with Iran. They entered discussions in April, I think, and Trump said there would be 60 days or something to resolve something. With a lot of people speculating over whether there was going to be an attack or not. You're already seeing a divide in MAGA, by the way, over this between Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and the MAGA crowd versus the more maybe traditional neocon crowd who want to hit Iran. And there were reports in the Times of Israel and the Wall Street Journal that said that Trump knew that Bibi was going to strike Israel, okay? BBC are more skeptical and other places, but these two publications knew, apparently, according to them, Trump knew that Bibi was going to hit, and apparently he was only talking with the Iranians to buy time. Come the 13th of June, Bibi strikes, and, you know, he hits what? Like Natan's nuclear facility, he hits their energy sector, he hits, he takes out Iran's leading generals, like these, you know, as if Soleimani wasn't bad enough, he hits Salami and a bunch of others, and these generals are very important people, by the way. They're responsible for a lot of like anti-protest activity and surveillance and running the IRGC, as Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. So without them, Iran is seriously crippled. I mean, it's really badly hurt. So, and it can't function as well as it used to. And this is what leads me into my conclusion, which is this strike enough? Can Bibi do it? Can he actually help the Iranians rise up? You know, Iranian regime, they're constantly above 50% for disapproval. Okay, I think at one point I saw 80% hate this regime or disapprove. I think the latest one I saw was 52% are against this regime. And it's such a shame because every time they've tried to rise up, they've been quashed, okay? They've been suppressed. Iran, I've said this so many times, Iran could have been the Japan of the 20th century. With its population and its talent pool and so on. You know, Iran during the 50s, 60s, and 70s was freaking becoming what is like becoming a superpower with its oil revenues and stuff under the Shah. Okay, a lot of people have a problem with the Shah. My mum really liked the Shah, weirdly, because she always says that at least Iran was becoming a great country. Repressive, yes, and it could have been better, but it was becoming like a world power, like someone to be taken seriously. It's just this funny story about the Shah of Iran. You know, back in the 70s, average countries spend maybe 2 to 3% of their GDP on weapons, right? The Shah spends like 60%, 70% of his money on just weapons. So you can understand why a lot of people in the West were looking at this guy going like, bro, are you planning, are you alright? Like, are you planning something? Like, you about to like destroy another country, man? Let me know what questions you have, because obviously I'm fully aware that this is a sensitive topic. This is a Friday night show, which is why I add some humor and stuff. But I'm very aware that this is a taboo subject. You know, there are people who are hurting right now and loss of lives as well. So, you know, I'm so aware that this is a serious issue. And it's my hope with this show to actually not only entertain, but educate people about the world and what's going on. We can make better decisions, stay safer as well when we all know a little bit more. So hopefully I've helped you actually in some ways whilst giving you an entertaining ride. Guys, many thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, then give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, subscribe. World Order takes the globe's greatest figures and retells their stories as epic works. I am mainly about geopolitics, macroeconomics, and tech, but I'm fundamentally, even more than an analyst, a storyteller. So I'm giving you a good ride. I'm educating you whilst also giving you a good ride. Be sure to follow me on all available social media. I'll link them in the description below. And yeah, guys, subscribe, because when you subscribe, I get more time to do this channel, and then the stories become better. They become richer. They become more detailed. There's so much that I feel like I've only hit like 5% of my potential. That's the crazy thing. I think I've got so much more to give. As I always say, my ultimate goal is to do to this century what Walt Disney and George Lucas did to the 20th. Okay, I'm trying to turn this world order thing into the next Star Wars. Okay, just keep giving a thumbs up, man. I'm not gonna complain. I'm gonna and right now, I'm just doing it in this form, okay? I'm doing it with, you can see my face, and I'm doing it in this form. But eventually, I want to take these stories and reproduce them as epic works of action, adventure, sci-fi, fantasy, and opera, okay? I want to take Trump and Putin and Xi and all these people and, like, you know, turn them into, like, mythic figures with, like, freaking super weapons and superpowers and, like, and it's just, like, imagine Star Wars, but even better, like, for the modern world, okay? That's what I want to do.